This is a 2024 Genesis GV70 all-wheel drive 3.5T Sport Prestige. Yeah, it's a mouthful. It's also the smaller of two internal combustion engine powered SUVs from the Korean premium brand. And it was first introduced to the US for the 2022 model year. The smallest Genesis SUV full stop is the GV60, but it's electric only. There is actually an EV version of this, the GV70, as well. And in fact, I already reviewed that one, and there were a lot of cool things about it. If you want to check it out, I have a link to that video in the description, and it should pop up right here as well. But this proved to be my first opportunity to drive a GV70 powered by an engine, and I jumped at the chance. And if you're gonna go gas powered, why not go big? The Sport Prestige 3.5 liter is in fact the very top trim of GV70 you can get, above the Sport and Advanced trims. If you already have the 3.5 liter, there is also a more base 2.5 liter engine, still potent, it has to be said. And with that engine, there's a whole nother group of trims. Not that much has changed with the GV70 since it was introduced in 2022, but new for 2024, if you get the 3.5 liter V6, you also get Highway Driving Assist 2 and Forward Collision Avoidance Assist 2. And all GV70s, regardless of powertrain, now also include a Wi-Fi hotspot. The real question I had, however, was how does this relatively new compact premium SUV stack up? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a standard Genesis GV70 with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine is $46,095. Going with the 3.5 liter V6 jumps that price up to $58,695. And my test car had an extra cost paint, and going Prestige added a lot, and it cost $68,870. With that, now is a good time to pull over and show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. Show you some of these advanced and prestige options we get. Looking at the car from the front, you definitely see a familiar design language between this and the GV80, the larger of the two SUVs. Also, because this is a sport trim, we do have this like dark chrome look here, and the front and rear fascias are a little bit different than the other GV70s. Also, Genesis has this interesting split headlight design where you have body in between two upper and lower elements here. I think it's ultimately a sharp look. And as you can see, the daytime running lights look nice as the car's rolling down the road. Also, the hood itself has some interesting lines. This sharp crease cut into it here that turns into a character line going down the side, and this kind of like sculpted out part in the center here, which is where the Genesis logo lays. I think it's all nicely done, nicely executed. But even though that's the case, I'm still more interested to see what's underneath the hood. And there it is, your twin turbocharged 3.5 liter V6, longitudinally mounted, or 4 aft, just like that. The axle center line is right here. So much of the engine is actually behind the axle center line as well, the front axle center line. So that's really good for weight distribution, to have much of the engine between the axles instead of in front of the front one. Oh, and finally, windshield washer fluid is tucked away in the back here, out of the way. Looking at the car in profile, here is a nice look at this Mona red paint, which is a $575 optional color, but there is only one color that isn't extra cost. It's Ultra White. Everything else costs at least $575 extra. But paint aside, I think this is a nice looking SUV. I do think it's a pretty busy shape in profile, but I think it's a nicely executed shape as well. I will also go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen so you can check that out, and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. Also, while we're here, we do of course have remote start for the Genesis GV70, as you just heard. But not only that, because this is a prestige Genesis GV70, that means it has all the prestige bits as well as all the things you get in advanced, which includes remote smart parking assist. See on the fob right there? Perfect. There you go. If you want to fit your car in tight spaces, you can do it all, including starting the car with the key fob. Standard wheels on the GV70 is a 19-inch wheel, but again, because this is a Prestige, it also has all the Sport Advanced package stuff, and that includes 21-inch wheels. And yes, this is a square setup. The wheel size in back is the same as what's in front. Looking at the car from the back, this has a little bit more of a rounded shape than the rest of the car. The rest of the car looks pretty angular and aggressive. This is just a little bit more rounded and bulbous. So for me personally, this is slightly less strong stylistically than the rest of the car, but it is still nice. And you do have a repeat of the bifurcated tail lights right here, very similar to the headlights. And this is where you can tell everybody that all GV70s are all-wheel drive and that yours is the larger 3.5 liter turbo V6. And yes, these are ultimately fake exhaust out-eared outlets right here, but the real tips are right inside, so it's not so bad. It's certainly less egregious than the worst offenders. And it also has a neat trick. Almost hidden in the rear windshield wiper assembly is this button right here. So let's take a look inside. You get 29 cubic feet of storage behind the second row and a nice and flat loading floor for that row. Also, you do get a touch of space underneath as well if you want to hold things like your owner's manual. But if you need more than 29 cubic feet of storage, yes, that is easy to do. Pull a couple levers and you get 57 cubic feet of storage, a nice wide space, and I think plenty of room to fit my bike, but let's find out. That was easy. Didn't take much work, plenty wide, really nice. Let's take a look inside. The name of this interior color is Aquamarine Blue. I have the other side tilted all the way back so you can see what the extreme angle is. You release it with this lever right here, pull back. That is the first and most upright position. So you can see the difference between the two right there. I think the most natural position is probably its second, which is right there. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and I have, a good 2-3 inches of knee room. And the seat bottoms are relatively high, so I have decent thigh support as well. And I have just about, maybe a touch under, a 90-degree bend in my knees. Now, because this is a Prestige or top-of-the-line model, we have 3-zone climate control back here, and that includes 3-level heated seats for the outerbound passengers as well. We also have this nice carbon fiber trim right here, which I do think looks awfully sharp, as well as manual sunshades. Oh, one other thing. If you're on the passenger side rear, you can also move the front seat if you want to give way more leg room if you want that kind of thing. So this is kind of like the executive position right here. Another look at this aquamarine blue interior and a better look at this carbon fiber trim right here with this kind of like aluminum perimeter. I do think it looks quite nice overall. I also like this polished metal for the door handle and the speaker and the usual controls here, 2-position seat memory, all of that, all nicely done. This is a Lexicon stereo system if you are curious, and we do also have lots of controls right here. Lots of seating controls, massage, lumbar, the works. Also, on advanced trims and higher, you get Nappa leather seating surfaces. Push button start is right here. The standard instrument cluster is an 8-inch screen with analog gauges on either side, but because this is a Prestige level Genesis GV70, we have a fully digital 12.3-inch screen. Standard equipment, however, is this super wide 14.5-inch center console touchscreen, and the controls for it is this lovely dial right here. But back to being a Prestige package, we also have a head-up display right there. We also have heated and ventilated seats for both front passengers and a 2-level heated steering wheel as well. Beneath that, this is your dry mode dial right here. Beneath that is another dial. This is your Prindle. Right next to that, you have a standard wireless charging pad right there, as well as a couple of USB ports right there. However, as you can see, one is connected because you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but that is wired. Looking up, we do have a glasses holder right here and some controls for your standard panoramic moonroof. I currently do have the privacy panel open, but it does close electrically. Lovely. Now the moonroof is standard, but this faux suede for the headliner, see right here, that comes with the advanced level GV70s, and of course the Prestige has it as well. Let's talk drive modes. You get several drive modes: Snow, Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and Custom. And you can adjust Custom with the center console touchscreen over here. Go to Setup, Vehicle, Drive Mode. And you can see here that if I go to Custom, I can adjust the powertrain, the steering. We do have adjustable shock absorbers, so you have Sport and Comfort suspension, and how aggressive the all-wheel drive is in terms of sending power to the rear, things like that. And if you want a more in-depth look at the exterior and interior of this car, I actually put together a separate video that goes into more detail. You can check that out. I'll have a link in the description, or it should pop up in the corner right there. And with all this talk of driving, seems like now is a great time to get back to the drive, so let's do that. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque come from? As we got to look at earlier, it is a twin-turbocharged 3.5-liter V6 longitudinally mounted under the hood, which is nice to see. And the engine layout includes a much larger bore and shorter stroke. Peak power does come at a relatively low 5,800 RPM, and peak torque comes early and sticks around. You get it at 1,300 RPM, and it holds that peak number 391 all the way through 4,500 RPM. So you get a 3,200 RPM spread. Pretty darn good. Considering that it is a turbo motor, we are running a pretty darn high 11-to-1 compression ratio. These days, I usually see numbers like 10 or 10.5 to 1. Considering all that, it's not at all a surprise that it does ask for premium fuel to make those numbers. That base 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine is also turbocharged, and really, you have to say, it does pretty well. You get 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. Regardless of which engine you choose, you do get the same 8-speed automatic transmission, and every single GV70 is all-wheel drive. And here's a fun fact. If you get the 3.5-liter Genesis GV70, you get a better weight-to-power ratio than the Audi SQ5. And it costs less, too. By the way, I did just review the Audi SQ5, and it was a lot of fun. I will have a link to that in the description, and it should pop up right there as well. What you get with a slightly larger displacement turbo engine is good linear power, and also a good amount of it. If I floor the accelerator, I get a pretty darn quick downshift and good pull. Man, this is a stout engine, and that is in the comfort driving mode, no less. So the first thing I notice is that even in the comfort driving mode, the automatic transmission kicks down pretty fast. I would say that is above average reaction for this transmission. Plus, we have 2 sportier driving modes to play with. So if I go to Sport and do the same thing again, yeah, fast kick down, really good reaction. We're in a nice low gear and we accelerate robustly. That is good stout feel. By the way, if you put it in the sport driving mode, the idle of the engine kicks up a little bit. Standard idle is like 550 RPM. If you go to sport, it gets to be more like 800 RPM. And if you go to Sport Plus, idle is more like 1,000 RPM. But you probably already heard, we kick down to even lower gear just switching to that drive mode. If I hit the accelerator again, yeah, good, fast, pull. This is a very, very healthy V6. I am very happy with the response you get from this engine. Credit to the Powertrain calibrators to get good response, but also the transmission calibrators. This is a good, fast reacting transmission. I'm very happy with this 8-speed. And I didn't mention it in the walk around, but we do also have paddle shifters to work with. So if you'd rather shift on your own, you can do that. Downshift is on the left. Upshift is on the right. This is a really good engine, and it's a fun engine, but it's not the most efficient engine. You get 18 miles to the gallon in the city, 24 miles to the gallon on the highway, 20 combined. In this day and age, we can't say those numbers are any better than so-so. On the plus side, you can tow with this GV70 if you want. Anyone can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Yeah, that's something. That's more than nothing, at least. And while towing is important for some, and really fuel economy is important for everybody, neither is nearly as much fun as accelerating. You could see how it was just playing around. Of course I had to test that. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. See what this twin turbocharged 3.5 liter can do. I do have it in the Sport Plus driving mode, and I have traction control disabled, though with all-wheel drive, I'm not expecting much of any wheel slip, but let's see what happens. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque, about 2,200-2,300 RPM, off the brake. Boom. Okay, nice revs, good quick shifts, nice. Wow, this is quick. Wow. Potent, strong, stable, linear acceleration from this twin turbocharged 3.5 liter V6. This got moving and got moving fast. That was smooth, quick shifts, really nice, powerful acceleration from this Genesis GV70. Whew. All right, let's talk chassis. And actually, before we talk chassis, let's talk a little bit more about this interior that is being held up by this chassis, because currently I am getting a massage. This has what Genesis calls ergo motion seats, and that means by a press of a button, I can choose between a pelvis, waist, or whole body massage, and it's got those air bladders inside the seat to do the work. And this is above average effective. I'm quite happy with how this feels, and it is extending the ease of which you can have a road trip in this car. Really, really nice. Also, we have adjustable shock absorbers, as I said. So when you're in the comfort driving mode, this is pretty darn compliant over bumps and undulations and heaves in the road. And that's despite the fact that we have 21-inch wheels that we're working with. I am genuinely quite impressed with how refined this Genesis feels. I think it's very comfortable and right up there with Mercedes. Considering how happy I was with the Mercedes GLC 300 I tested a few months ago, that's really saying something. By the way, if you're curious about that one, that link should also pop up here and it'll be in the description. And all this comfort is true on roads like this or on the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. And since I have this on-ramp to myself, a quick handling test. Got seatbelt tensioners. And I've got a fair amount of understeer, but to be fair, I am also in the comfort driving mode, not the Sport or the Sport Plus driving mode, but generally speaking, the body stayed flat and grip was pretty decent. Okay, on to the interstate test. We do have a huge long list of driving aids. I'll go ahead and put those up on the screen right now so you can check those out. One of them is Highway Driving Assist 2, which means that we have lane centering and actual active lane change. And we'll also see how this feels in terms of road noise and wind noise, things like that. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. At that speed, we are cruising at around 1,800, 1,900 RPM from the V6 and the 8-speed automatic transmission. So that is very much in the background, nice and quiet. I do also have the lane centering on, and we're coming up on a subtle curve right now, so I'll take my hands off the wheel. And yeah, yeah, it took a moment to get itself sorted, but now it is tracking towards the center of the lane pretty darn well. So that system works well. And more generally speaking, we have a nice, quiet, comfortable cabin in here. There is very little wind noise. You can hear just a little bit, but it's in the background and it's low frequency stuff. And road noise, this cabin isolates out road noise pretty darn well as well. Couple that with the massaging seats and all the heated and cooled everything, and this very comfortable and nice looking interior. Yeah, this is a fantastic highway cruiser. So what do we think of this 2024 Genesis GV70 all-wheel drive 3.5 liter Sport Prestige? This is not a cheap SUV. At nearly $70,000, this is a lot of money for something this size. At the same time, it does pretty effectively still play the value card. If you look at other SUVs in this class and what this offers for that price versus the others, I'm pretty darn impressed. This powertrain is really stout, but more importantly, delivers its power smoothly and linearly, and that's really nice, especially considering it's a turbocharged engine. So I'm very happy with that. The structure feels strong. The body, the cabin is really well isolated from the outside world, and I am very, very comfortable inside as I drive it. By the way, my hands are warm, my body is warm, and my body is also getting a massage. So, like its Hyundai parent company, the Genesis GV70 does still play the value card. And I think it plays it really, really well. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please show me by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. Also, I do reviews like this all the time, but I also do car news and other car-related things. So if you have any interest in keeping up with the auto industry in general, please subscribe to my channel. That also helps me out a lot, and I'd also really appreciate that. Speaking of, if you want something that's not too terribly big, but definitely fits in the premium to luxury space, another SUV that might be worth checking out is the new for 2023 Lexus RX SUV. The one I reviewed was the RX 500h, which was the hybrid one that has a bit more performance. It is pretty similar power to this and a pretty similar price as well. But the RX is slightly larger than this one. I will go ahead and have a link of my review in the description, and it should pop up right there. Or maybe you're interested in something completely different. Well, like I said, I have reviewed a lot of stuff by now. Something will pop up next to me. Hopefully that is something you're interested in, and if you do end up watching it, I definitely hope you like it. Okay, goodbye for now.